Hey guys, Slim Brody here, and today I'm going to be ranking the Halloween film franchise. Now, I know I haven't got a lot of videos up lately, been really busy with work, there's obviously a lot going on in the world right now, so I'm excited to finally get this one done. It's not going to be too much on each film, just a few things I like, a few things I don't like, and my overall take on the film. Nothing too in-depth, so I hope you enjoy it, and let's get to it. Alright, so coming in dead last on my rankings list is Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Now, hear me out. If this wasn't a Halloween movie and it was just a one-off, I feel like I would probably enjoy this film a lot more. But being that it is part of the Halloween franchise and there's no Michael Myers, I just have to put it last. I mean, Michael is the Halloween franchise. He's the star of the show, so no Michael. It's got to be last. It has to. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be upset with that. A lot of people really like this film, actually. And, I mean, it has some good parts. I will say my favorite scene is definitely the Cut for Family death scene where little Buddy puts the mask on and his head turns to mush and the bugs come out and the rattlesnake and his mom Betty, she faints, she dies. The rattlesnake bites Buddy Sr., he dies. Just a lot of chaos. That was a really good scene. I like that a lot. And the performances by Tom Atkins as Dr. Chalice and Dan O'Herlihy as Colonel Cochran, great performances. I really like those two. They carried the film. But just overall, the whole thing was Stonehenge and the killer mask. I never really got into it, so definitely last on the list. Coming in next on the list is Halloween 2, 2009, the Rob Zombie remake. I fucking hate this movie. I cannot stand it whatsoever. I know Rob Zombie was given kind of free reign to do whatever he wanted to with this film after he remade the original, and a lot of people like where he went with it, the whole psychological aspect and all that, but I am not one of them. If I had to pick a few positives, the opening hospital scene, the whole chase with Laurie, that was really well done, and the Nurse Daniels kill, Octavia Spencer, super brutal, that was great, but after that, the film goes downhill quick. To start out with, Michael just doesn't seem like Michael whatsoever. I like to call him Mountain Man Michael. He looks homeless with the clothes all ripped up, super dirty. The mask is all crazy looking, and it's just not Michael to me. It's just like a regular guy. It's weird. So mixing that with a terrible Loomis who's just super fame driven, money hungry, only cares about boosting his ratings, not Loomis whatsoever. It just terrible combo, and it did not go over well with me. The white horse aspect and, the ghost of Deborah, that whole thing was stupid. I didn't like it. A lot of people say, which I like this reference, it was almost like a music video, like a metal music video. I mean, the choppiness and the cut scenes and just craziness, it was weird as fuck. Like I said, I did not enjoy this film. And if Halloween 3 would have had Michael, this piece of shit would have definitely been last because I hate it. Next up is Halloween Resurrection. Now, I really do not like this movie, as most people don't, but I will say one positive is that I actually didn't mind the whole Dangertainment game show aspect with the cameras and the live stream. That was actually pretty cool. I will give them props for, switching it up, trying to give us something new, something fresh, and although it didn't really work, I still like that they tried something new. My biggest issue, however, with this film, which I'm sure everyone will agree, is that it completely negates H2O's amazing ending. As we all know, at the beginning of Resurrection, through a flashback, we find out that Laurie actually didn't kill Michael. She had killed one of the workers because Michael had switched his mask and his clothes. She was mistaken. She killed the wrong person, so Michael is still alive. And I just hated that. I hated that decision. I mean, I understand they had to bring him back some way, but that was just really fucking stupid. To make matters worse, they kill Laurie off in the first 10 minutes of Resurrection in the dumbest way possible. She catches Michael in the booby trap. He's upside down. He does the whole mask thing, pretty much, making her think that it's not him. She needs to check. She checks. He grabs her, stabs her, throws her off the side of the building, and Laurie is finally dead. It just does not do her character justice whatsoever, though. That was not the way for her to go out. I hated it. Really dumb decision. Another issue I have with this movie is Busta Rhymes. A lot of people like the humor he brought, but the kung fu and the scene where he bullies Michael, all that, I didn't like it. It felt out of place for a Halloween movie, and I did not think it worked in this film. And not just him, but all the characters. I mean, this is probably, out of all the Halloween films, the worst cast of characters. I mean, they're all super forgettable. The main girl, Sarah, she doesn't really stick out. None of the kills are great. Just a pretty boring movie overall. So, still better than Rob Zombie's piece of shit Halloween 2, but not by much. Next on the list is Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. Now, if I had to pick one film out of the entire franchise that I feel like is the most debated as far as some people loving it, some people hating it, it's definitely this one. I mean, I've seen some people who have it as high as number 1 or 2 on their list, and some people who have it dead last. But personally, I am not a very big fan of this film, not gonna lie. I absolutely hated the whole Cult of Thorn storyline, Man in Black. After catching glimpses of the Man in Black in Part 5, they kind of had to tie that together and how it affected Michael and what it was, and I just thought it was real kind of off the wall and didn't really work out. Another issue I have with this film, and it's a big one, is at the very beginning, Michael finally catches Jamie, finally kills her. However, Jamie is not played by Danielle Harris in this film. It's actually J.C. Brandy. So, for one of the most pivotal points in the entire franchise, Jamie finally dies, and you just don't really feel anything from the scene because it's not Danielle Harris. You're supposed to have this emotional connection to the character, and you're supposed to be shocked, and you're supposed to feel something, but like I said, I just didn't because it just didn't really seem like Jamie, so that really sucked. Another thing that was really unfortunate was Dr. Loomis, Donald Pleasance. Throughout the entire filming, he was in poor health. He just wasn't really spunky, didn't have a lot of energy. So instead of the normal, kind of quirky, off-the-wall Loomis, you get a more even-keeled, mild-mannered Loomis. And like I said, I just thought that really took a lot away from the film. It was unfortunate. He actually passed away right after production wrapped, and for someone that meant so much to the franchise, I really wish we could have just got one more great Loomis performance, but unfortunately, like I said, we didn't. One of the things I love about this film, however, are the kills. I thought they were fucking fantastic, really gory, really brutal. At the beginning, you get Michael, who grabs the nurse and kind of shoves her on the spike, goes through her head. That was awesome. You get Deborah Strode, who is crawling through the sheets. She gets killed with the hatchet, the blood splatter. That was great. You get John Strode, who gets electrocuted and his fucking head explodes. Super gory. That was awesome. And one of my favorite kills is actually Beth in the upstairs bedroom when Kara's watching her from across the street, and you get that slow motion stab scene where it's kind of got that like reddish orange tint to it. I thought that looked awesome. Really liked that. And then, of course, towards the end, you get Michael, who goes into the hospital, into the exam room. He massacres all the doctors. You got the strobe light going off, the blood splatter everywhere. I thought that was great. So I definitely really enjoyed the kills in this film. Another thing that I really enjoyed was Paul Rudd as Tommy Doyle. His character, I thought was awesome. He gave off this kind of weird vibe, kind of different. He was obsessed with Michael. I really liked how his character played out, even though a lot of people didn't like it. Like I said, I thought it was a great performance, and he kind of carried the movie, in my opinion. So, overall, like I said, not really a fan of this film, Giving Michael the whole Cult of Thorn backstory and the Man in Black kind of taking care of Michael and all that, I felt like it really took away from his character because what makes Michael so intriguing and so scary is that you don't know what he's all about or why he does the things that he does or why he kills. It's just, he's the shape. So by kind of giving him the backstory and explaining some things, I thought that took a lot away from Michael. And like I said, overall, just not a great movie and not a huge fan. Next on the list is Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. Now, I know a lot of people don't like this film, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you how great it is because it's not. However, I actually enjoy it. Now, the opening scene with Michael getting shot by the cops and he falls into the mine shaft and ends up floating down the river to the hermit shack, all that, I thought that was real goofy. I didn't care too much for the opening scene. Thought they could have done a lot better on that. Also, I think the biggest flaw with this film is the decision to make Jamie mute. I mean, Danielle Harris in Part 4, Jamie, she was brilliant. A great performance, and to come into Part 5 and decide to make her mute, I feel like it just completely limited her character. I kept wanting more from Jamie because she's so pivotal to the film, yet with her being mute, I mean, you just couldn't get much out of her. So I think that was a terrible decision, took a lot away from the film. Also, killing off Rachel so early, I think that was awful. Like I stated in the Resurrection review, with Jamie Lee Curtis, Halloween has a way of not doing their characters justice, and this is another example. I mean, Ellie Cornell, Rachel, Part 4, she was brilliant, and, to only be killed off at home with a pair of scissors, I mean, she should have had a more heroic death. I did not like that whatsoever. And once she's killed off, we're stuck with fucking Tina, which makes things 10 times worse. I hate Tina. She's loud, she's obnoxious, she's selfish. I hated her character. Like I said, once Rachel was gone, we were kind of stuck with her as the final girl, so that was awful. And, her and Jamie's relationship, I felt bad for Jamie because Tina was just so fucking selfish, and I honestly, like I said, I just felt bad for her because you wanted almost more out of Tina for the sake of Jamie, but you just didn't get that. Also, the cops. I mean, I understand they were trying to go for a little bit of comedy, but it just did not fit in this movie. Not a great decision. Did not work out. Also, throughout the movie, of course, you have the Man in Black. You get glimpses of him and the thorn symbol. You don't really know what's that all about, what's going on. It kind of leaves you guessing, so I really wish they would have never went this route. And, during the filming, they didn't even know where they were going with this. I mean, it was something that they put in the film, and they said, hey, in the sequel, Part 6, we'll kind of tie everything together. So in Part 5, you're kind of just left guessing, which I really hated. Now, some of the positives. I love the kills in this film. Tina's boyfriend, Michael, he gets the garden claw. That was awesome. You also have the barn scene, which I really liked. I love the atmosphere, the lighting. That was awesome. Spitz, he gets the pitchfork to the back. That was great. His girlfriend, Samantha, she gets the scythe, whatever that thing is called. Michael kills her with that. That was awesome. Really like that. And then at the end, when Michael throws the cop out of the window, hangs him, really like that. So I definitely enjoy the kills in this film. That's one of the positives. Also, you get peak Cuckoo Loomis. I mean, he is just absolutely nuts in this film, and I love it. He even uses Jamie in the end as bait to catch Michael, which is fucking nuts. And I mean, I love the ending. The ending of this film is great. You get the iconic laundry chute scene where Michael's stabbing it, Jamie's trying to escape. You get, the booby trap where Loomis catches him in the cage net and tranquilizes him, then beats him with a 2x4. Then you get that really iconic scene where, Loomis has the heart attack and they kind of fall on each other. You think they kind of go out, together, although in Part 6 you find out that they're both still alive. But a very, fitting end. I love the ending to this film. And one last thing, which I'm sure people are going to give me shit for, but I love the mask in this film. People call it Alien Michael, where it's just really wide and the neck's not tucked in, all that. I don't care. I thought it looked great. Don Shanks played a great Michael, so definitely one of the positives. So overall, not a great film from top to bottom, but I think it's one of the more enjoyable ones if you just want to pop it in, kind of sit back, not take it too serious. Like I said, not one of the better films, but I still enjoy it. Next on the list is Halloween 2007, the Rob Zombie remake. Now, I know a lot of people don't necessarily like Rob's whole gritty, grungy type feel that he has to his films, and I'm not going to lie, I didn't know how well that would work with a classic film such as Halloween, which is really clean cut, not a lot of blood, not a lot of gore, but I will say, I think it worked really well. I mean, it was really fresh, really unique, a different take on the film, and I actually enjoyed it. I will say my favorite thing about this entire film is definitely Tyler Mane as Michael. He is an absolute fucking beast. He is so brutal, and the physicality that Tyler brings to the character is awesome. Absolutely love it. One of my favorite scenes that shows just how brutal Michael is the Danny Trejo kill, where, you know, the night that Michael escapes, he kills the other guards, kills the nurse, and Danny has kind of been building this relationship with Michael, so when he shows up for work that night, he tries to reason with Michael. He says, you know, we got to get these handcuffs on you, we got to get you back in the cell, and you think Michael's actually going to listen to him, but he doesn't. Michael beats the shit out of him, he drowns him. We get that iconic line, Mikey, I was good to you. I absolutely love that. And of course, he takes the television, throws it on top of Danny, kills him. And like I said, that just showed how brutal and just how physical Michael was and how he did not give a shit. And like I said, I was all for it. Loved Michael in this film. I also liked some of the casting decisions they made. You know, you had Scout Taylor Compton as Lori, thought she was great. They brought Danielle Harris back, of course. She was Annie. You know, all of us Halloween fans, we popped for that. Love that. Brad Dourif as Sheriff Brackett. Really liked that. And I also really liked the ending sequence. You know, you had Lori in the attic where Michael was trying to kid her, you know, being real physical again, busting up the ceiling. Love that. You had the pool scene where Loomis shoots Michael. And of course, we all think the movie's over. Lori gets in the car, the famous line, was that the boogeyman? And Michael rips her out. Good jump scare right there. And I absolutely love the very ending. The last shot where Michael tackles her off the balcony and Lori's just sitting on top of him, shoots him, the blood splatter. Thought that was great, real gory. So the ending sequence, definitely one of the better part of the films. A few things I don't like, and this first thing, I kind of hate saying it because I just don't know how I really feel on it yet. So, Dr. Loomis, of course, Malcolm McDowell, you know, a lot of people love his performance, but I'm just kind of iffy on it. You know, I don't feel that same passion and kind of that obsession with Michael like Donald Pleasance had. And I know no one will ever be Donald Pleasance. He's the GOAT. He is Dr. Loomis, so can't really compare the two, but I will say I just wish Malcolm McDowell would have kind of brought a little more passion, you know, just seemed like he didn't kind of have that craziness, like that crazy obsession like Donald Pleasance brought, which I absolutely loved. So I thought Loomis could have been a little bit better. I also didn't like Michael's family in the beginning. You had Ronnie, Judith, and of course his mom. You know, Rob kind of has that redneck, kind of trashy feel to some of the people in his films, and you get that with Michael's family. And to me, it just kind of made Michael seem weak, you know. His family was real vulgar, and they were kind of, you know, bullying him, and he took it. And that's one thing I didn't want, is to see, you know, Michael Myers being vulnerable and weak. So I didn't really like how Rob did that. Thought he could have, you know, twisted a little better, not really go that route. But all in all, I think this is a pretty good film. You know, not too great, not terrible, just kind of in the middle, but definitely one of the more enjoyable Halloween films. Next on the list is Halloween H2O. Finally, we are done with the whole Cult of Thorn bullshit. All of that nonsense. We're back to the original storyline. This is a direct sequel to part 2. And with that, we get Jamie Lee Curtis back. Yes, she is fucking amazing. Absolutely loved her in this film. Of course, she was the star. She carried it. But what I loved about her particularly is how badass she was, man. She was fucking awesome. One of my favorite scenes that kind of shows that is when she realizes that her son, Josh Hartnett, is still on campus. You know, she can't find him. She realizes he might be in some trouble. She goes to her bedroom, lifts up the pillow, grabs the gun. Straight up reminded me of fucking Dr. Loomis, just off the walls cuckoo. Love that scene. Of course, when she sends the kids on their way, she locks the gate, grabs the axe, stands in the middle of the street. She yells out for Michael. She calls him out. She's ready to go to war. I fucking loved it. And I'll just go ahead and talk about the best part of the film. It's the ending. It's probably the best ending in the entire franchise. Of course, everyone thinks Michael's dead. She knows he's not after she stabbed him over the balcony. So she fucking hijacks the coroner's van, which is awesome. Drives off. They end up crashing. And of course, Michael, he's pinned up against the tree, between the tree and the van. She reaches out for him. You know, he wants some sympathy. But no. Laurie just whacks him. Decapitation. Head goes rolling. Fucking amazing. Now, of course, I'm glad they're making more Halloween films and that they did, but if that would have been the ending to the entire franchise, I mean, that was perfect. I don't think you can get much better than that. Like I said, it was awesome. And of course, in this film, you get probably the most iconic shot in the entire film franchise, if not one of the most at least. It's between Laurie and Michael in the circle window. They come face to face finally after all those years. That shot was everywhere. All the trailers online. It's till the end of time. It'll be shown. Super iconic. Love that, of course. And I also really liked, you know, this was the late 90s. A lot of people like to reference this film as Howl-O-Scream, you know, late 90s. It definitely has that Kevin Williamson touch, who actually was uncredited with some rewrites on this film. You know, it has that kind of modern and hip and fast-paced feel to it, which none of the Halloween films before this had. So it's a, you know, it's a whole different take, which I loved it. I love the atmosphere. Like I said, fast-paced. Thought it was great. So, I mean, I just really like this movie. I do. But if I had to pick a few things that I didn't enjoy, number one would definitely be Michael. Now, Chris Duran plays Michael in this film, and I just don't think he has the right pace and the right movements. Michael just seemed off in this entire film. I just didn't like the way he moved or the way he portrayed the character. Like I said, thought it was a little off. I also did not like the mask in this film. In the beginning, when he kills Nurse Chambers, it's actually the Halloween 6 mask, I believe. But later in the film, they changed to a new mask. Did not like that very much. And of course, when he's killing Charlie in the upstairs kitchen right before, you get that stupid ass CGI mask that everyone talks about. Fucking terrible. Hated that. So dumb. Like I said, that was really stupid. And of course, this is the first film without Donald Pleasence, Dr. Loomis. So it's kind of, you know, it's kind of weird trying to get used to a film without him. Like I stated previously in part 6, he was kind of mild-mannered, really wasn't in that film a lot. But to completely not have him, it was, you know, it was a new feel. It was kind of a new take on it. But I thought, like I said, Jamie Lee Curtis, she carried the film. Thought she did a great job. Liked a lot of the supporting cast. Thought they were great. And like I said, I just really like this film. I like the pace. I like the atmosphere. I like the modern feel to it. Thought it was super trendy, super cool. And it's definitely one of the better Halloween films and one of my favorites. Next on the list is Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Now, of course, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, Michael was not in the film, but 6 years later, he's back, and I really enjoyed this movie. I absolutely love the opening sequence where you had those wide shots of the farm and the farming equipment with the different Halloween decorations. You had the skull on the mailbox and the ghost, all that. Thought it was brilliant, and I really liked how there was no music with it. You know, it was just kind of the wind with this real eeriness. It was real creepy. Definitely gave off that Halloween fall vibe. Absolutely loved it. Honestly, probably my favorite opening sequence of any film, like I said. Thought that was great. And I'll go as far as saying this is my favorite cast of the entire franchise. I mean, from top to bottom, I thought everyone was really good. You have, of course, Jamie, played by Danielle Harris. She's awesome, the star of the show. She pretty much carries the film. Then Rachel, played by Ellie Cornell. I really like the dynamic between Rachel and Jamie as sisters. You know, at the very beginning, of course, Rachel says, you know, she doesn't want to take Jamie trick-or-treating, and even goes as far as telling Jamie that, you know, they're not real sisters, which I hated. But as the film went on, you know, the relationship grew stronger and stronger. You really felt that bond between them. So I really liked the dynamic of their relationship. Thought that was great. Of course, you get Dr. Loomis, Donald Pleasance, as always, just amazing. He's so good in this film. I love Dr. Loomis. Then you get Brady, played by Sasha Jensen, and the Meekers, Sheriff Meeker, played by Bo Starr, and his daughter, Kelly Meeker, was played by Kathleen Kinmont, I believe. So like I said, from top to bottom, the cast overall was brilliant. Like I said, probably my favorite out of the entire franchise. Absolutely loved it. And one of my favorite scenes is definitely the gas station scene, where Michael shows up, he kills the mechanic to steal his suit, and Loomis shows up, he walks in, can't find anyone, then he looks over the counter, sees that the waitress is dead, and he looks up, and you get that infamous shot of Michael standing there without the mask yet. He still just has the head wrap on, and he has the suit though, but he's holding the knife, and I mean, it is fucking terrifying. I remember seeing that for the first time as a child, and I was scared as shit. I love that scene. Super creepy shot. Like I said, brilliant. And I love the dialogue that Loomis gives after that. You know, he tells Michael, don't go back to Haddonfield. You've already raised, you know, too much hell there. You've tormented those people. And if you want another victim, just take me. I thought that was great by Loomis. Like I said, love the dialogue. Then you get that kind of over-the-top gunshot sounds where it sounds like they're dinging off the plates. It's kind of cartoonish. I didn't really like that. And, of course, Michael, he kind of just disappears. I don't know, like Loomis shoots him, then he just nowhere to be found. Didn't really like that, but like I said, I still think it was a great scene. And, of course, Michael pulls out. The gas station catches on fire, blows up. Which, I will say, this is the first Halloween film to have, like, a lot of action. I mean, it's intense. Parts 1 and 2 were kind of more mild and a little more slow-paced, but this one is fast-paced. There's a lot of action. Like I said, something we haven't seen to this point yet, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, Michael, he even, like, raises hell in this film. In parts 1 and 2, he's kind of more in the shadows. He's kind of laid back, but in this one, I mean, of course, he blows up the gas station. Then he goes to the power plant where you get that awesome scene with him and Bucky where he ends up killing Bucky, throws him into all the wires and shit, which takes out the power in Haddonfield. So now there's no electricity, which makes it even creepier, even more eerie. Then he goes to the police station, which we don't get to actually see it, but he takes out the town's entire police force. You know, Meeker and Loomis show up, and the lights are off, the place is trash, they find the dead cops, and that pretty much leads to these, like, beer-bellied rednecks turning into the cops. I mean, it's the only protection that they have, so they're like the de facto cops now, which I thought was hilarious. Love that. And I really love the whole Meeker house scene, you know, where it's Kelly Meeker and Brady, then you have Jamie and Rachel with the other officer. Of course, Michael, I love this kill. He sits up from the chair. Kelly walks over and he takes a shotgun and just rams it through her, through the wall. It just shows how fucking brutal and how strong Michael is. Love that kill. Then one of my favorite shots is at the top of the stairs where Michael and Brady are kind of fighting. Brady's trying to shoot him, and they're in front of that huge window, but the cinematography is fucking amazing. You have that kind of like bluish gray tint to the scene, and they're just standing there, and it looks awesome. Like I said, I love this. It looks amazing. Then he takes Brady and just kind of fucking like squishes his head, squishes his neck. Brady's dead. Then, once again, another action scene. He chases Rachel and Jamie on top of the roof. Rachel ties the little wire around Jamie, kind of lets her slide off the roof, and then Michael catches up with Rachel. She's hanging on. He's stabbing at her. She falls off. Like I said, super action-packed, something we haven't really seen up until now, which I loved it. Then you get the whole school scene where Loomis shows up with Jamie. They're running through the school from Michael. The rednecks pick them all up. And if I had to pick something, one of the scenes that I kind of have some issues with, it's this one, the truck scene, where the rednecks are driving off with Jamie and Rachel in the passenger seat, and they're driving down the road, and out of nowhere, Michael just pops up in the bed of the truck where there's a couple of the other rednecks just standing there, and he just starts kind of throwing them off, fighting with them. Just looked really goofy, Michael, kind of this action-packed, just like, fighting scene. I didn't really like it, and, like, where did Michael come from? I mean, they're driving for a good distance before Michael pops up, so you mean to tell me he was just kind of like squatting down, holding on to like, the tailgate or something? Like, I don't know. It was just kind of goofy, the whole scene. Didn't really enjoy that. But, of course, he kills all the rednecks. They're driving. Rachel gets in the driver's seat. She slams on the brakes. Michael's on the roof. He flies off. At this point, the cops show up. They shoot Michael. Everyone thinks he's dead. We get to the end, back at Rachel and Jamie's house, and of course, the amazing ending where you get that first-person perspective, puts the mask on, you see someone pick up a pair of scissors, they walk into the bathroom where Jamie and Rachel's mom running bath water, and someone just starts stabbing her. At this point, you don't know who it is, you don't know if it's Michael or who, but Loomis walks over to the stairs, hears the commotion, and he sees Jamie standing there with her clown mask on, clown outfit, bloody scissors in hand. You get that awesome, crazy Loomis reaction where he's like, no, no, and he even tries to fucking shoot Jamie before the officer runs over, stops him, and that's the end. Now, at the time, you didn't know, in part 5, was Jamie going to be the killer? Was it going to be Jamie and Michael? And the reason that you think this is because when the cops go to shoot Michael, Jamie actually runs out of the truck and she kind of touches him. It's a real close-up shot. You see their hands touch, and so you're wondering, did Michael pass something on to his niece? Is she evil now? Like I said, huge cliffhanger, but I love the ending. Thought that was great. And I really don't have too many negative things about this film. I mean, if I had to pick one more thing, I guess it'd be the mask. I mean, it was just really clean looking, like too white almost. I don't know. I just didn't really like it. And Michael was kind of like bigger almost, He looked kind of like tall and wide. And not one of my favorite Michaels, definitely. Like I said, didn't really like the portrayal of him in this film. But overall, I really enjoy this movie. Like I said, it's kind of a new take on the franchise, more action-packed, not necessarily kind of Michael in the shadows, but kind of raising hell. So I really like that. Like I said, love the cast. Overall, great film. Not quite in my top 3, but definitely one that I really enjoy. Coming in next is Halloween 2018. Now, I'll start off by saying this is definitely my favorite soundtrack of the entire series. Yes, I even like it better than the original. Of course, you get John Carpenter back, along with son Cody Carpenter and Daniel Davies. Those 3 compose it, and it's fucking brilliant. I love the soundtrack. One of my favorite scores of not only this film or this franchise, but of all time, out of any horror film, is the piece that's being played when Allison walks back. She sees Oscar on the fence. Michael killed him. And Michael walks up. He approaches her. She takes off running. You get that loud, deep, ominous, dong, kind of like bell ringing sound. It's super aggressive. You have the sirens in the background blaring. And it's almost apocalyptic sounding, really. It's kind of warning you like, hey, Michael's coming and he's about to fuck shit up. Like I said, love that piece. It's bone-chilling. It's eerie. One of my favorites of all time. And also one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. I mean, I love this soundtrack. I also really enjoy the cast of this film. Of course, you get Jamie Lee Curtis back. She's Laurie. Total badass. Even more so than H2O Laurie. In this film, she's got that survivalist thing going on where her entire life she's really just been preparing for Michael's return. She's booby-trapped the house. She's stocked up on the guns and the ammo. She's ready for Michael's return. She's ready to battle it out. She knows it's inevitable. And like I said, just total badass in this film. Loved her. You also get Karen, who is her daughter, played by Judy Greer, and Allison, who is her granddaughter, played by Amy Manichak. They were great. Ray, who is Karen's husband, played by Toby Huss, liked him. Kind of had that comedy aspect to his character. He's a little more easygoing. Really liked him. And of course, my favorite, Officer Hawkins, Will Patton. He was great. Loved his performance. So top to bottom, really enjoyed this cast. Definitely one of the better out of the Halloween franchise, and I just think they were great. I also really enjoyed the kills in this film. Now, I will say, I wish more kills would have been on screen. Like, for instance, you see the gas station attendant, his jaw, when the podcasters show up, you get that close-up shot, and his jaw is just dislocated, hanging there. Super brutal looking, but I really wish I would have got to see Michael in action, you know, like what happened there. Also, when Officer Hawkins shows up at Vicky's house, walks in, you have Dave on the wall with the knife. He's just hanging there. Once again, super brutal, super gory. Just, I wish I would have got to seen it. You know, you just don't get to see Michael in action, which really sucks. But there's a lot of other great kills on scene. You get Sartain with the head smash. That's great, where he's looking up at Michael. You get that red tint to the scene, you know, great cinematography. Michael's heavy breathing, you know, he says, say something, and Michael just wham, step on his head, smashes it, brains and shit everywhere. Super gory, love that. You also get the cops who, Michael turns one of them into a fucking jack-o'-lantern where his head's cut off with the light, and then the other one with the penknife impaled in his head. Thought that was great. So like I said, really enjoyed the kills in this film. And I really enjoyed the single continuous long shot during the middle of the film. I call it the trick-or-treat scene, where Michael's walking down the road, you know, trick-or-treaters are everywhere. He walks into the garage, grabs the hammer, walks into the house and kills the old lady, you know, walks through, you hear the baby crying, and you kind of think for a second like, oh shit, is Michael about to fuck with the baby? Luckily he doesn't. He spares the baby, walks outside, and walks up to the next house, goes on the porch, and you get that super iconic shot where he's looking into the house and his mask is reflecting into the window. Love that shot. Thought it looked amazing. Of course, he walks around the side of the house, comes in the back. The lady in the house walks up to the front window. She's looking outside. Super intense scene. Michael comes up behind her, and another great kill. Grabs her by the back of the head, smashes it on the windowsill, then just takes a knife and shoves it through her neck. That, honestly, might be my favorite kill of the whole movie. That was super fucking brutal. Michael just going ham on her. Love that. So like I said, thought that whole continuous single shot was really unique. Love the way they done that. Thought it was great. And I really like the ending of this film as well, where, of course, Michael shows up at Laurie's house with Karen and Allison there as well. And the very end where they trap him in the basement and they catch it on fire. I love how Michael doesn't even flinch when the fire starts. You know, he's just looking up at him. You get the shot of the mask with the original theme playing in the background. It's a little sped up though. Sounds really cool, but love that shot. Like I said, he just looks so badass. I mean, fire's blazing behind him and he's just staring at him. Like I said, love that. A few things I didn't like about this film. First off, the character of Dr. Sartain. With Loomis, his obsession with Michael was because he knew what Michael was capable of, and he didn't want others getting hurt or killed. So, of course, when Michael escaped, you know, he's warning others, he's telling the cops, he's telling people, hey, Michael's out here, we gotta catch him, and if not, people are gonna die, it's not gonna be good. And with Sartain, it was a different type of obsession. It was more of a fanboy almost, you know. He wanted Michael to kill, as weird as it sounds. He wanted to know what Michael was feeling when he killed people. What was he thinking? How did his mind work? Those sorts of things. So it was just a different take on the Doctor character, and one that I didn't really enjoy. I will say, though, the scene where Sartain ends up killing Officer Hawkins and putting on the mask, I remember first watching that thinking, holy shit, they could go down a path here that is really sketchy, you know, some Halloween 6, Curse of Michael Myers type shit. I'm thinking, is Sartain going to be helping Michael? Is he going to be guiding Michael? Or, you know, killing with Michael? All these things are running through my head, and I'm really glad nothing came out of that scene. And, of course, Michael ends up killing Sartain a few minutes later, so could have been a lot worse than it was, but overall just didn't really like the Sartain character. And I also didn't really like a lot of the comedy in this film. There are a few parts where at the beginning Ray, talks about having the peanut butter on his dick. That wasn't terrible. Or Julian, in the scene where he's talking to Vicky, that wasn't that bad. But there were a few scenes where I feel like the comedy definitely took away from the horror of the film. Now, for as great as Julian was, when Vicky is getting killed upstairs by Michael, and he runs out, Dave runs up the stairs, and he's like, Dave, we got to get out of here, and it was a really funny scene. Everyone in the theater was laughing, but it kind of took away from the fact that, hey, Vicky's upstairs getting butchered, it's supposed to be scary. So, once again, the comedy just kind of lowered the intensity of the scene, which I didn't like. Also, the scene where Michael kills Sartain, and he's approaching Laurie's house, they kind of cut in with this dialogue between the two cops where they're kind of getting onto each other about the food they brought for dinner and how one of them is kind of childish with what he brought. And it was supposed to be a funny scene, which it was, but once again, Michael had just killed Sartain. He's about to get to Laurie's house. It's about to go down. And I just thought it was a really weird spot in the film to have comedy. So like I said, once again, just kind of lowered the horror of the film. Like, it's supposed to be scary, but overall, still a great film. I love Halloween 2018. I remember when it first came out, I even thought like, hey, this might be my favorite sequel. But after some time has gone by, and after rewatching it, numerous times, falls into number 3 on my list. Still love this film, and definitely one of my favorite Halloween movies of the entire franchise. Coming in next on the list is Halloween 2. I'll start off by saying I really enjoyed the opening scene of this film. Of course, it picks up where the original left off as Loomis shoots Michael off the balcony. You get this great first-person POV shot of Michael walking down the alleyway. He's trying to avoid Loomis, avoid the cops. He ducks into the Elrod house where he steals the knife from Mrs. Elrod while she's making the sandwich. She kind of walks into the living room, she hears something on TV, and you get this really awesome shot of Mr. Elrod in the chair, Mrs. Elrod behind him, and Michael is off in the distance, in the background, in the kitchen, holding the knife. Looks super creepy, really enjoyed that. And he makes his way next door to Alice's house where you get the first kill of the film. It's a great jump scare. He sneaks in the back door, she's on the phone, she hears something. He pops up, stabs her, you get some great blood splatter, and a really cool close-up of Michael and the mask, and his eyes are really wide. It's super intense, so like that kill, and I really enjoyed all the kills in this film. Compared to the original, they definitely upped the ante as far as more blood and gore, a higher body count. I definitely enjoyed that. You get Nurse Karen in the therapy pool where he drowns her and the water is scorching hot. So every time he lifts her head, her face is just practically fucking melting off. That was super brutal. Really enjoyed that kill. Nurse Jill with the scalpel where he lifts her and her shoes slide off. That was really cool. Also, two of my favorite kills and one of my favorite scenes of this film is where the nurse walks into the doctor's office and it's not on screen, but the nurse turns the doctor around and somehow Michael had stabbed him in the eye with a syringe. So he's sitting there with a syringe in his eye. That looked awesome. And as the nurse is backing up, it's kind of like the original where Jamie Lee Curtis is standing upstairs and Michael slowly appears out of the darkness, tries to stab her. Same thing in this film. She's slowly backing up. You see Michael's mask come out of the darkness. He grabs her, stabs her in the temple with the syringe. Love that kill. Like I said, all the kills in this film are great. Way more brutal, a lot more gore. Definitely better than the original in that aspect. So that was definitely one of the best parts of the film. I also really like the hospital setting. I mean, a lot of people don't like that. They think it's kind of boring or dull or just doesn't fit. But I think it was really creepy, It isolated Laurie and Michael kind of from the rest of the town. And it was just, it was big, it was dark, it was abandoned. I love the way they used the security cams to kind of follow Michael around and follow the nurses. You could kind of see where they were at in comparison to one another. You could kind of almost follow Michael's path throughout the hospital. So really liked that. Thought that was kind of a unique new way of keeping up with Michael. So I definitely liked that. And I really just enjoyed Michael in general in this film. Dick Warlock played him. I thought it was a great portrayal. A lot of people have issue with him. They say, it's kind of like a zombie Michael. He's really slow paced and methodical, but I liked it. He's almost like a robot that's just programmed to kill, that's all he's focusing on is Laurie. Love his movements, love Dick Warlock's portrayal of him. Like I said, one of my favorites out of the entire franchise. Thought that was great. If I had to pick a few things I didn't like about this film, one would be Laurie. Jamie Lee Curtis, she's great, always is, but in this film, she's pretty much comatose for the majority of it. So when she is on camera, she's either lying in the hospital bed or just kind of crawling around. You don't get too much from her character, which just really sucks. It's unfortunate because she was so great in the original. So wish we could have got a little more from Laurie. And with that, the pace of this film, even though I enjoy it, it's number 2 on my list, obviously. I really like this film. It can be kind of slow paced and even somewhat boring at times. A lot of unnecessary shots of, once again, Laurie laying in the bed, or when she does get out of the room, she's just kind of crawling around. Or, as much as I did like the use of the security cams, a lot of it was just showing nurses walking into rooms. So like I said, a lot of unnecessary shots. Thought that was a little off, but overall, I definitely love this movie. Like I said, Dick Warlock as Michael, the kills, the opening scene, all those are great. So it lands at number 2 on my list. Really like this film. Coming in at number 1 on my rankings list, of course, is Halloween 1978, the original John Carpenter's masterpiece. It's one of, if not the best horror films of all time. And I mean, there's not much I can say about this film that hasn't already been said. I think it's pretty much perfect from the cast, Jamie Lee Curtis, Donald Pleasence, Nick Castle. That trio is great. Of course, you get the timeless Halloween theme, which not just for horror films, but of all films, it might be the most popular theme of all time. Absolutely love it. And I just really like how John Carpenter didn't build this film around a high kill count or a lot of blood or a lot of gore. For a slasher, it was unique in the sense that it was built on atmosphere. It was super suspenseful. It built up the fear and the tension. And like I said, thought Carpenter was brilliant in that idea. $300,000 budget, put this thing together, and I just absolutely love this film. Like I said, one of the greatest horror films of all time. There's not too much more I can say about it, and that's pretty much it.